prefer to have your video on, I think you can have it on.
Very cool.
Have you started recording, Candice?
Yes, I just started.
Yes, just to let everyone know that we are recording. Hi, Tapatwa. Okay, I think then we can start. Hello, everyone. I think I'm known for icebreakers, so today is no different. So if you thought you're off the hook, unfortunately not today. Today is not the day. So I want us to sort of gauge who's in the room today. So I have a few sort of questions, and then I want to see who's where, right? So do you see that teams at the top there on the options? There's that face person with a hand where you can react. So if you've never used that option, is so I see Tuli says test driving that option. There's an option to react. So that is what we're going to use to decide a few things here today. So the first one is, what type of weather do you prefer? Are you a winter person or a summer person? So if you're a winter person, please do a thumbs up. If you're a heart person, if you're a summer person, then use the heart emoji. So winter, thumbs up, summer, heart emoji. Let's see. Let's go, mad. Okay, there's quite a few hearts. So that's great. And then the second one is, are you a morning person or a night owl? So if you're a morning person, use the thumbs up. If you're a night owl, then use the heart emoji. Let's see the emojis going red. Okay, hearts. Hearts stay winning, eh? The heart emoji. Okay, last one. Uh, do you prefer in-person engagements? So do you wish this launch party was in person? Maybe we met together, or do you prefer this launch party being online? So if you're an in-person person, then thumbs up. But if you're an online person, then a heart. Oh, okay. Okay. Seems like we have quite a lot of people that are in-person people, which is great. So that means you guys are very social and you like seeing people and meeting new people. Okay, so those are the only sort of icebreaker questions that I had for everyone. I hope the ice is broken and we are all feeling warm and welcome. But okay, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you so much for joining us as we launch the AEN podcast. I think everyone saw the posts going up, and we saw the links, and we saw the video and the sound as well. But then chances are some of you are wondering, okay, what's going on? So this is just a launch party to say we have a podcast, yay! But mostly also to just hear from you, as you are the target for this podcast, as to how did you feel about the first episode? What more episodes do you want to see? Who do you want to see as well on the podcast? So the podcast is just a platform for us to shine a light on all the innovations that are happening within the African evidence ecosystem. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm saying African evidence ecosystem, it's clear that you have not watched the first episode, and I'd recommend that you do that. So we want to shed a light on all the innovations that are happening in Africa and sort of show everyone what we are doing. So that's the purpose of the podcast, and we hope to see it grow, and we hope you guys also enjoyed consuming the content of the podcast. So please feel free to engage in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. This is very informal, so if you at any point want to come in, you can just raise your hand. But we would prefer for you to stay muted so that there's the sense that happens. So, but please feel free to engage on the chat. Feel free to also post this on your social media platforms using the hashtag AENPodcast party. And then, yeah, I think those are my rules. That's about it. So I'll just get us started, and I'll invite Prof Ruth Stewart to come and tell us about how it was like being the first guest of the first ever AEN podcast episode, and how that was like, and what she got from that episode, and what she hopes people got from that episode. So over to you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Andile, and really lovely to see everyone here. So I went for a run this morning and I was thinking, what am I going to say? I've been given a slot, I must think about this. And You know where I was? I was kind of in that place where I was like, oh, why do we bother doing this stuff? It's like another initiative, another bit of energy, even the work we do, right? We chase funding. If you do systematic reviews, you get told you've got to code another 5,000 articles when you're tired. When you've got young children, you're opening up your laptop at ridiculous times of the morning to try and do work before they wake up. Every now and again when we get a break to go and do some sport or hang out with our friends, we think, oh, why do we bother with all that work? So the podcast made me think about that question. Like, why do I bother? Why am I here? Why am I not lying on a beach or doing a 9-to-5 job where I have a guaranteed salary and, a boss who tells me exactly what to do? Because that's not the kind of work any of us really do. And I came up with 3 answers that the podcast kind of helped me reflect on, and my run this morning crystallized a bit. So one of them was, I actually do believe that evidence can make a difference, that it can increase accountability, improve governance, reduce waste, have more impactful interventions. So really this stuff, I do this because I believe evidence can make a difference. The EIDM is important. Second reason I do this is because I really love the way in which the AEN and my evidence career, if you like, has allowed me to engage with individuals in really unusual and extraordinary and exciting ways. And actually, we have these beautiful cases now that we know about with the AEN where we've kind of changed each other's lives. We've made a suggestion, shifted a career choice, influenced a decision maker, done different kind of research. So there's something I find incredibly rewarding, that we do touch each other's lives and influence each other's lives, and the AN is an amazing place for that. And then the third one is that I sometimes think I can do everything on my own, but I really can't. And this applies to the AN, to SACE, to all the different organizations that are trying to make a difference with evidence across the continent. We have to do it together. And then when we do work together, we do really exciting stuff. It's like, when we get together with our colleagues at 3IE, or we run an event with the Campbell Collaboration, or when we do stuff together as organizations, we really do make a more powerful difference. So when I think back about the opportunity I had in the podcast, it's really for me been an amazing opportunity, and kind of thanks to the AN for inviting me to do this first podcast, because it's helped me remember why I bother. And it helps me to feel better about all of those things that can be difficult, because I have really good reasons and really lovely colleagues to do this exciting stuff with. And that's my few minutes of reflection on that experience. So thank you, Andile.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for those reflections. I think one takeaway from me is that it helped you remember how you do this. So I'd like to then call upon Tulisa to also come in to give us her reflections as well.
All right, thank you so much, Andile, and good evening to everyone. My name is Tulisa Kalada. I'm a research assistant at SACE, and the newest addition to the AEN and the EIDM space. Firstly, I'd like to just thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this. And I'd like to congratulate the AEN on such a big deal as launching a podcast, because with my understanding is now the world is revolving, and you want people from all age groups to be a part and to understand what it is that we do. So something like going to open a podcast, is what I like about it is it speaks to everyone. It speaks to all age groups, especially the younger generation, which you do want to invite to come over to the space and understand what it is when we speak about the evidence ecosystem. Now, my reflections from the podcast is, first of all, it was the best opening of the series, because for anyone who did not know what is happening, Ruth explained it nicely, what it is that, how it came about, how the African evidence ecosystem came about, what it is that they do, and what it is that drives the people that are doing this, and as she just mentioned now, inequality and the issue of unemployment, redressing that. And in that, it tells you that you're part of a bigger thing. So when I was watching the podcast, to me, it was like, I'm part of a bigger thing. It might be a small seed as where I am, but it makes you reflect, and it makes you see that the issues that we in South Africa are facing are also faced by different states in Africa. So it's a good thing then when we come together and decisions are made by policymakers, by the work that we do to inform those. So the podcast then brought much light in understanding the reasoning behind it, why it started, and where we are now. And also it wants us to come together to think on what are the gaps that, as Ruth mentioned, like the things that we want to be redressed in the future, like creating employment, for example. And what else did I want to say? I was so nervous speaking after Ruth. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? I took so many notes. So also, what I liked what Ruth was speaking about, which lacks so much in our continent, is the issue of, I wrote it down, is the issue of, I'm so sorry, transparency. So we have a problem so much in the continent of transparency. And it was explained in the podcast that we do what we do. So it is very much transparent, as in why the decisions that are taken are being taken. And it's just such a nice thing to be a part of, that decisions that are being taken, people taking decisions, informed decisions, is something that is very big in Africa. And the podcast is also reaching out to a lot of people to gather more understanding. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for it, and would have loved for it to be longer, but obviously people's attention span. So it was the perfect time. It ends while you still want more, which is very important. And it gets people excited to watch the entire series, to be like, when that specific person was speaking, I wanted to learn more. So then when the next guest comes, it's like, yes, this is what we want. So that's also very important, to keep people very interested, very intrigued, which is what you guys captured very well, the host and the guest. And once again, I'd like to say thank you so much for it. It provided very much more insight for a person, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to the series and to the next episode. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much, Tulisa, for those reflections. I love the idea of how we are part of a bigger picture. I think then I'll call upon Etienne for your reflections.
Hi everyone. I'm Etienne Wamba. I'm a senior research associate at 3 and I'm calling you today from the UK. And I really like the initiative. I'm a big fan of podcasts in general. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Especially when I go to the gym. I don't know why. I just feel like I make most of my time when I go to the gym and I do my sport listening to something smart or less smart sometimes. But so, yeah, last time I listened to the podcast was literally me lifting weights and listening to your voice guys explaining about the AEN and evidence in Africa. It works quite well. But yeah, more generally, I have this feeling that, platforms nowadays everyone listens music or podcasts on Spotify or uses YouTube or social media. So if you want to reach people, you have to use those platforms, right? What we want to do, I don't know everyone here, but I know organization like SACE or the AEN or what we do here at 3, we want to make evidence available and accessible to people for them to be able to use it. So obviously those platforms exist, so we have to use them, and I think that's a really great initiative. At the moment I'm writing a long report, and I'm like, yeah, I'm putting all this effort and time in. Is anyone going to read it? Hopefully a few, but but the power of those kind of platform is such is much greater. So I think that's a very good resource. And what I liked in at least the first episode is the relatively short and dynamic format. Because I mean, we are working on research, we are working on evidence, we are working on aspects that are sometimes a bit blurred for people. Like when I try to explain my job to my friends or to some of my family members, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like you can see on their face, like, what is this guy doing every day? Like I don't understand. Well, having those kind of format or like very dynamic makes us look cool. I'd say it's like show that we're not just like opening books and making research. We're actually like nice people and cool people as well who have things to say. And yeah, and the benefit of it is that even through this format that is very like, let's say, informal, but in the good way, like informal, well, we do learn stuff. Like you listen to the podcast for 20 minutes, and if you didn't know about the AEN, now you know. If you didn't know about evidence in Africa, now you know. If you didn't know about the African evidence ecosystem, well, now you know. And I'm sure that in the next episode, there will be maybe another type of topic, and now you will know more. And so that makes this kind of information accessible, and I think that's really great. And for a person who listens to quite a lot of podcasts, I don't think I'd heard like something similar, like a podcast. I mean, obviously in our sector, there are some podcasts about international development, about international relations, but about the specifics of evidence and use of evidence, especially in Africa. I don't think I had heard any episodes on those aspects. So very happy to hear about it. And the last thing that I wanted to highlight is before my young career in evidence and research in international development, I did a degree in journalism. So I know how much work it is to record something, then prepare like the audio, prepare everything, post on those platforms, like make it visible, share. So I just wanted to highlight a shout out to Andy and the work that you have done on this, because that's great. And yeah, big shout out to you and wonderful work on this.
Thank you so much, Etienne, for that shout out. And I like that you said we are sort of bringing back the code. Was it there? No. But we're bringing back the code back into EIDM. If it was never there, then we're bringing it now. So I'd like to now open up to the audience. Anyone who has any reflections, any comments, any questions, this would be your opportunity. 5 minutes of fame.
With my small voice today, I thought I can't let this one pass by. I think this is a manifestation of something that has been coming for a very long time. I remember Natalie and I and the team sitting reflecting, and these young researchers were like, what about us? Where do we find more information? How do we get supported? Not everyone likes to just read stuff. Other people like to consume content in a different way. So when this podcast came, I was like, okay, this is the manifestation of us beginning to take care of young researchers. These emerging leaders, I really want to be part of this space, but it's been difficult to give them entry. So with this innovation, I think they'll really be excited, because I was also telling my daughter, we launched a podcast. They're like, you go, mommy. I would listen to that. I would not read your newsletter. I don't want to read anything. Not everyone likes to read. Then I was like, oh, okay. So that's for the right audience. So I'm really, really excited about this podcast series. And I think it also gives people an opportunity to be able to digest EIDM in small pieces, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, particularly for entry-level people. So well done, Andile and the team. I'm looking forward to more episodes of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susie. Anyone else who wants to come in? Going once. Oh, Natalie, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Andile. I had a question, which is kind of, yeah, I'd be interested to sort of hear from your perspective. and perhaps others of the AEN team, which is, what does success of this podcast look like for the AEN? I'd be really curious to hear about that.
I think we probably have different answers, but for me, what success looks like is reaching new audiences and making EIDM famous. So I think I like that now young people are excited. There's a young person also who reached out to me directly, and he was like, I want to be involved. I've been showing evidence maps to him. He never showed any interest. But when he saw the podcast, he was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I want to get involved. So for me, success looks like reaching young people and different audiences and making EIDM famous. I'm pretty sure, maybe let me give it to Ruth. What does success look like to you?
On a personal level, I'm really excited that my nephew watched it, that my son asked if he could share it on his friends group. My dad, I think Eddie and I was smiling because my friends are always, especially my parents, what is it you do? And I tell them over and over, and they smile and say they've got it, but they obviously haven't got it. But this time, I think my dad really did get very excited about it. Sent me lots of interesting comments and notes. So it was a way of communicating with people who will never come to my conference and never read my paper and never engage with the systematic review methodology or the evidence, policy maps or any of that stuff. It turns them off. Whereas it was really exciting to see that number of people who were kind of turned on by this. And that would be my measure of success. So we're reaching different people. I don't actually want to reach the same people. I want to reach different people. So there you go.
Yep, that sums it up. Are there any more questions? Because we are ready to show you episode 2. I was excited about episode 2. Mushfika?
Thank you, Andile. I think from my side, firstly, congratulations. From myself as an aspiring researcher, I felt that it really is a very simple way, with no disrespect to the logistics and the planning that's involved, but it's a very nice way to actually just break down the academic side, and practically talk about, have an open conversation about things that would be easier to understand. I had no idea Ruth had 4 kids. So, it was also brought an opportunity to kind of learn about the human side of someone, but also share, what they do professionally, and also being able to just break down a lot of the technical jargon and words and stuff that we are so used to using because it's primarily what we are exposed to, and not realizing that the gap of uptake and use is often linked to language, understanding technical terms, and where there will be similar words with different meanings in different contexts. So I actually think that it broke down a bit of that. And I wish you all the best for your future podcast. And I have to say, it is the first podcast that I watched from beginning to end. I didn't just listen, I watched it as well. So congrats.
Thank you so much, Mushfika. Candice, my tech person, just checking if you're ready to show us the snippet of episode 2.
Absolutely.
Before
Let
you go,
me-
sorry, Candice, to disturb.
Sure,
There's a
no
question-
problem.
There was a question, Andile, on the people, in case you forget it, about the number of
on the episodes. So we are dropping an episode bi-monthly, I think, but every 2 months an episode will drop. So we give you time to digest, and then we give you another one. Candice, are you winning? So just to give you then just whilst Candice is figuring out the sharing of the screen and the video, episode 2 is about EIDM as a career path for young people, and I like that is one of the themes that came up from this discussion. because someone like Siziwe's daughter is watching this, and she was watching the first episode and was like, oh my word, I want to be involved, but they don't know where to start. So that was sort of the focus of the second episode, and I hope that you will, in fact, enjoy it and share it with the young people we are trying to attract. Candice?
Sure, just sharing my screen. Sorry, the
Okay.
computer is not cooperating with me all of a sudden. These things do tend to happen to me all the time.
Maybe this is why people prefer in-person things, right? It's one of the reasons.
Yes, I'm sure. Okay, I'm sharing my
Okay,
screen.
I see
Are
it.
you guys seeing
Yes.
it? Great, I'm
Yes.
going to press play.
How did you find this world of EIDM? Because now that you're working in the space, how did you? Because there's no child in creche or kindergarten who says, when I grow up, I want to be in evidence.
It's new. It's new.
How did you find it?
And the interesting part about it is that it started in 2016 for me.
Okay.
When I was an intern at UJPQ.
Okay.
And at that time, I remember my supervisor for masters, which is Dr. Karina. I will always make
Hi,
reference
Karina.
to Dr. Karina because, yeah, she's like a living God for me. And spoke with Prof Ruth. Then I became an intern and whatnot. And we were preparing for Evidence 2016.
Yeah.
That's when I learned about the space on evidence and whatnot. Then I became interested. That is why in 2018, when I graduated from my master's, we sat down and started to move towards the transition or transitioning towards the EIDM and doing a PhD on it. So ever since that, I've been learning what the then ACE, now the SACE, have been producing, and including AEN in terms of what they publish and whatnot, and how do we then institutionalize within the government.
Yeah.
So I've tried to do that, and that's how I became, or I joined this particular space.
Okay.
So it's a long one.
You just mentioned institutionalizing EIDM within the government space. So what role do you actually play within the evidence? So we spoke about this on the previous episode, the African evidence ecosystem. Who are you? Are you a knowledge producer? Are you a user? Are you a policymaker?
It's difficult because I see myself as both the producer and the user. Producer in a sense that I do conduct research on this particular space. And a user, I'm a policymaker who uses evidence to make policy decisions. But on a professional note, I would say I'm a user because that's where most of my focus is. I'm a user of evidence within this huge space. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Candice. So that was the sneak peek into episode 2. I hope that you guys will enjoy it. And I think I'm hoping also that it will sort of make you think about how you stumbled upon EIDM, because like I said, there's no child in creche that says, when I grow up, I want to be in evidence, but we sort of all stumbled upon it. And I hope it helps us think about those stories about how we stumbled upon EIDM. Just confirming that episode 2 is officially up. Candice, can you please share the link on the chat? So it is up on Spotify, on YouTube as well. So if you are more of a watcher, you can check it out on YouTube. But if you want to listen whilst working out like ATN, then it also is available as a sound as well. So we will also share all the links on all our social media platforms as well. So you can also get access to them there. Please also use the hashtag to share your story. How did you stumble upon EIDM? But otherwise, that's about it. unless if someone has something to say or last minute comment, that's about it. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you so much to everyone for joining this launch party. I understand for a lot of us it's quite late in the evening, so we are tired. So it was sort of a closure for the day. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the speakers that shared their reflections from episode 1. And I'm looking forward to your comments and your stories online. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.